welcome back. It is mid-April right now, which means two things. Number one, Canada is going through its final snowstorm of the season. We've had warm-ish weather for the last month or so, but there's always that one freak snowstorm in April, so that's what's happening all around me. I film in my sunroom and there's a huge snowstorm. Maybe it's a hailstorm at this point happening around me. So if you hear any noises, that's what it is. And number two, mid-April also means that the Sephora VIB sale is happening about now-ish. The VIB Rouge section of the event started last weekend, and the VIB portion and an additional VIB Rouge is happening this coming weekend. One of my viewers, Courtney, hey, how are you doing? Asked if I would do a Sephora VIB sale recommendation video. And I thought that was a great idea. I haven't done one in about a year and a half, and that video is still relevant actually. All the products featured in it are permanent, but I thought I'd do an updated version as well because there's obviously been a lot more products released since I made that video, and I've got a bunch of things that I want to talk about. Some of these are permanent, I think the bulk of them are, but some of them are limited edition, but they are available right now. Just to recap a little bit on the Sephora VIB sale, because I think most people are aware of it, but it is a sale that happens in April and in November. The one in April tends to be about 15% as a discount, and the one in November is around 20%. I will have all of the details in the description bar down below in case you're curious about dates and discounts depending on what your level is. So let's dive right into that. And the first thing I'm going to talk about is eyeshadow palettes. And I'm going to start it off with a neutral palette, which is not normally my style, but everyone needs a good neutral palette. And I think the Tarte Tartelette in Bloom is a really good one. This one surprised me, honestly. I wasn't expecting to love this just because it does look so plain. But man, these shadows are amazing. I kind of forced myself to use this by taking it on vacation with me as the only eyeshadow palette that I brought. So I was therefore required to use this eyeshadow palette. And I was blown away at the quality and the consistency of these shadows. Every look I made with it over that, I think it was a 4-day weekend, looked amazing. I was so pleased. And it was one of those moments where I was like, I'm sorry I ignored you. I know you're a neutral palette, but I just didn't feel like I was going to love you. And I really, really did. Also, this is one of the first palettes that Tarte released where I actually noticed the smell on it. The shadows are now kind of vanilla scented. And I love that. I mean, I keep saying this every time I talk about scented eyeshadows, but I really like that in an eyeshadow. So I'm really happy that Tarte has started scenting their products. And I mean, I just really like this palette in general. Switching to the more colorful side of things, I've talked about this palette a lot, but it is available now and it is limited edition. So if you're gonna get it, now would be the time, especially with this Sephora VIB discount. This is the Too Faced Life's a Festival palette. It has a wealth of rainbow colors that all work beautifully well together. This is not necessarily a palette for somebody who's in love with neutrals, and that's fine, and that's why I'm excited about this. You do have a few options over here that are on the warmer side of things, which I think more people would feel more comfortable with, but all of this over here is what makes this palette so exciting for me. The colors in here are beautiful, and some of them are quite unique. This Mystic Rain color, I've never seen an eyeshadow like that before in my life. It's kind of like a lavender with a teal reflect to it. Absolutely stunning. I love every single shade in here, and I've been using this palette at least weekly since I got it. More often than not, I'd probably say like twice a week since I got it. It is absolutely wonderful. I mean, if you can get over the packaging, because I know a lot of people have complained that this is ridiculous, but I mean, it's makeup, it's fun. I like the packaging. It may not stack very well in my bookcase with all my other palettes, but I still really like it. And heck, the quality of the shadows in here is well worth the money spent for it. Another palette that I have to recommend, and I just did a video on it, the Violet Voss hashtag palette. This is so beautiful. The colors in here are gorgeous, and I guess it could be said that it looks very similar to like the Natasha Denona Sunset palette. I don't have a lot of experience with her eyeshadows just because I think the price point is so out there, but this is very reminiscent of any kind of sunset palette. And I love that there is a row of matte neutral shades at the top, and then you've got your row of like yellow into orange, and then orange into like cranberry, and then a row of purples. A lot of people may look at this and think that it's too much color, but if you take off the bottom row, it's pretty much just a warm tone palette that we're so used to seeing. But these purples add so much to this palette. You can get so many looks done just by having such a range of shades. And in my video that I posted last week, I had a few people say that the packaging is too cheap. I get it. I kind of agree. I don't really think that it looks that special for a $60 palette, but it's pretty sturdy and you get 20 eyeshadows in here, which is enormous. There's almost no freaking palette at Sephora that has 20 shadows in it that's not over like $100. This is worth the money spend. And like, aside from the fact that this is an indie brand that you would be supporting, the quality is fantastic. All of these shadows work so well. The next palette is one that's been around for quite a while, but I get so excited to use this palette, more specifically in the spring when corals start to become a thing again. And this one is the Too Faced Sweet Peach palette. This is definitely, I think, my favorite peach launch that they've done. And I do prefer the smell on this palette in comparison to their more like peaches and cream scent that they now have for that range of products. This one is just beautiful. I really like that it's got some bright, vibrant tones in here. I mean, for the most part, this is a pretty neutral palette, but they've got some punches of color to really help amp up the look. And this is something that I will rely on a lot for going on vacation. It's easier, I think, in general to wear neutrals on vacation just because you don't have to be worried about messing around with your makeup too much. While I prefer bright colors in general, it's just easier to deal with neutrals. So I'll bring something like this on vacation, and if I really want to bring in the color, I can do that with the corals, but in general, I can wear this as a neutral palette and be really happy with the outcome. Also, there's purples in here too, so like there's some color for you as well. And in talking about this one, I have to mention the accompanying palette to it. So this is the Sweet Peach Glow palette, and I really like this thing, and I keep going back to it. So it's got a highlighter, a blush, and a bronzer in it. These are appropriate for my skin tone, but that's pretty much it. If you're much darker than me, I mean, if you're any kind of darker than me, this is really not gonna work for you. But for someone who's around a MAC NW NC20, this is a good item. This palette has the same scent as the Sweet Peach palette, which makes me really happy. And I just really love the combination of these. The bronzer is not too dark, and it's kind of luminescent one without being like shimmery. The blush is like my favorite color of coral. It's that little bit more orange toned pink. And the highlighter, while I thought it was gonna be, I don't know, too peach, it's really not. It's a beautiful shade, and this whole palette works so well together. And you know, it's funny, I'd lamented recently that there's not enough palettes out there that have a blush, bronzer, and highlighter, or multiple iterations of it. And I'd completely forgotten about this palette, but I love this thing, and there's actually like some significant dents in these shadows. So I'm excited to pull this back out. I really only tend to bring out the corals in the spring and summer, so that's why these ones are top of mind right now. The last little palette I have to talk about is kind of an eyeshadow palette, but I tend to use it more as a highlighter palette, and that is the Kat Von D Alchemist Holographic palette. I haven't talked about this recently, but I use this every single week. It's one of those palettes that I don't bother putting back on my shelf where I keep them all. I keep this on my desk so that it's ready for me at all times. Now, this is listed as an eyeshadow palette, and I think most people use it that way, but honestly, I prefer using this as a highlighter palette. I mean, you've got a green, you've got a blue, you've got like an ultraviolet amethyst shade, and then this pink one down here. I use the pink one probably the least out of all of them, but these top three shades I use constantly for highlighters. I've mentioned recently that I'm pretty fed up with champagne highlighters. They are beautiful, they are very flattering on the skin, but like I've seen enough of it, and I don't really need more champagne colored highlighters in my collection. So this is the kind of stuff that I've been gravitating towards. I love having a complementary color on my cheekbone to match my eyes. That's just something that I feel is really me. It's something that makes my makeup special, I think. And while a lot of people may look at it and go, it's not really for me, it makes me really happy. So this palette is one that I've reached for time and time again because they're really convenient. The pans are kind of small. They are about eyeshadow size, but honestly, you need so little product with these, especially if you're using for a highlighter, that I think the pan size is good, and it also keeps the cost of the palette down. I have used this every single week since I got it, and I cannot recommend it enough. I'm gonna stick with highlighters for a second, and I have to mention these ones by Stila. They come in kind of bulky packaging in my opinion, but the product in here is so lovely. So this is their Heaven's Hue highlighter, and I have the shade Kitten here, which is their more traditional champagne color, which is very flattering. But one of the things that makes this so interesting is that it's kind of that putty texture. And you have a few options with this. It goes on just lovely with a brush, which really surprised me because it doesn't feel like it would. But you can also use your fingertips for it because it does come off really smoothly on the hands and you can tap it off onto your cheeks. Now, there's something about this particular champagne color that I feel is a little bit more unique, or maybe I just want to feel that way about it because the product is so lovely. But either way, this kitten one is beautiful. And if you want something a little less traditional, this one here is called Transcendence. And it's kind of that purple shifting with a bit of blue in it. There's not a ton, it's more, maybe more like lavender, lilac kind of thing. It is gorgeous. And I'm so happy that Stila released like a traditional color highlighter alongside one that's a little bit different. So if you want to try out this putty formula and you're kind of done with champagne highlighters, which I totally understand, maybe try Transcendence out because the texture on these is totally identical, but this one is a little bit more special in terms of coloring. And now that I've talked about Stila, I have to talk about their Glitter and Glow liquid eyeshadows. These are so special and one of the best products that I own. I just hate that they are $31 Canadian because that's like a knife in the heart whenever you want to buy them, because I basically want every single shade, but that's a lot of money. So the few shades that I have here are Diamond Dust, which is a silver glitter with gorgeous color reflect. There's like purple, teal, blue, maybe a little bit of pink. They're not super obvious, but if you catch the light right, you get that like burst of color and it's beautiful. Kitten Karma here is the first one that I ever tried and it's what made me fall in love with the formula. A bit more of a warm champagne with silver glitter. And these other ones here, Smoky Storm, I used this recently in a tutorial, gorgeous color. And this one's a fun one. This is called Into the Blue and it was part of their mermaid launch, but they've actually released them now as permanent items, which makes me so happy. This one's a blue with a lot of purple in it. Now another pricey item that can be very hard to spend the money on would be Becca's products. And these ones in specific are their Sunlit Bronzers. Last time I did this kind of video, I recommended the highlighters and I still recommend those. Those are absolutely fantastic. But their bronzers are lovely too and equally expensive. So this is the kind of time where you want to be grabbing something that's a little bit, you know, up there in the price range. I have two shades here. This one is Capri Coast and this one is the palest one, Bali Sands. I've been using Bali Sands throughout the winter just because it works on my paler skin, but Capri Coast is what I consider one of those perfect bronzer shades when it becomes like spring, summer for me. I really like how this one looks. This one's beautiful too. I just really like this tone. But they're the right kind of coloring for bronzer. I don't want something that is too warm because I feel like it just looks incongruent with my face. It just never really looks right. These are the right kind of warmth and they look really nice on the skin. These are honestly one of those flawless products to use because you can never really apply too much, which is a good thing because I can tend to go a little bit overboard with like face products, and especially with applying them because I tend to have quite a heavy hand. I think these do the job in keeping my heavy-handedness at bay, so I would really recommend you check out their bronzers as well as their highlighters. Their highlighters are fantastic and I use those all the time as well. Over the last year or so, I have really fallen in love with Tarte's fake lashes. Now, these are cruelty-free and they are made with a synthetic blend. And the thing that is probably the most impressive about these is that the synthetic blend does not look artificial. Now, more often than not, when you get fake lashes and they're cruelty-free, it tends to be made out of plastic. And plastic, if it's not done right, I guess, can look really bad on the eyes. It tends to be really reflective and just look not right. Now, I'm not saying that fake lashes look especially natural. I'm wearing pretty big ones right now. But what I'm talking about is when that eyelash, like, reflects the light. Like if I blink and then you get like a ping of light shining off my eyes from my eyelashes, that doesn't look right. And thankfully these Tarte lashes, whatever they're made out of, just looks good. They are easy to apply. The band is thin enough and flexible enough that it's not very difficult to apply to my eyelashes. And I've gotten so many uses out of these. I can wear these lashes probably 20 times each before they finally start to like go a little bit off or lose their shape. So I would absolutely recommend these, and I don't think the price point is that high either. I feel like they're under 20 bucks each, and considering that you can wear these about 20 times, that's like $1 each use. That's pretty good for a set of fake lashes. So I would absolutely try these out if you're in the market for some. The very last thing I'm going to talk about are colored eye pencils. Now, I don't tend to wear a lot of eye pencils on my upper lash line just because I tend to go for liquid liner. I wear these all the time on my lower lash line. And these ones in specific are the Makeup Forever Aqua XL eye pencils. I have M92, which is a pale lavender. I've got M26, which is a pale blue, and then M30, which is a mint color here. I think that these shades in general go so well with so many of my looks, and I do tend to apply it on my lower waterline pretty consistently when I'm doing an eyeshadow look similar to this. These do have excellent longevity. I do tend to get a little bit of wearing on the outer corner of my eye, but that tends to happen around the 4 or 5 hour mark, so I would say that these are really good at holding up. The only thing that is kind of annoying right now, and I'm not really sure what's going on, is that the Sephora Canada site doesn't seem to have their fun colors anymore. They've got the black, the brown, the navy, but I can't find these colors and ones I was interested in purchasing for this sale. I wanted to pick up, I think it was the yellow color, but they're gone from Sephora Canada, which is really disappointing to me. I did check and they are on Sephora USA, so if you're in the States, you can get your hands on the more fun colors. But I mean, if you're looking for something that's just gonna have good longevity on your lower waterline, I think any of the Makeup Forever Aqua XL pencils would do you good. I was just really looking forward to picking up more of the colorful shades, but it looks like I'm shit out of luck basically because they're not on Sephora Canada anymore. So that's going to be it for my Sephora VIB sale recommendations. I will link to the previous video I did down below. Again, all of those products were permanent, so you still could buy them now if you're interested in them. I will be doing my VIB haul, but it will be wrapped into my monthly haul at the end of the month, just because I'm not buying like a ton of products, so I don't see the point in doing a separate video for it, so I'll just wrap them all together. So that's going to be it for this video. Let me know what you're going to be picking up during the Sephora sale, and I will catch you next time. Bye!